The jungle of 7 was trying to kill them. That was the point of the exercise. Wiped the sweat from his eyes and kept moving. Around him, the other cadets pushed through the thick vegetation with ease. They used their 6 arms to swing between trees. The simply melted through obstacles with their crystalline bodies. The floated above the worst of it, their telepathic powers guiding them around danger. And then there were the humans, just 3 of them in a class of 50. Wasn't the strongest cadet, he wasn't the fastest, but he was stubborn. His instructors back on Earth had told him that. You're too stubborn to know when to quit. He had taken it as a compliment. Beside him, Lee moved with careful precision. She was the better fighter of the 2 human cadets, and everyone knew it. The third human, Young, was somewhere up ahead with the front group. Contact in 30 seconds, Commander's voice crackled through their comm units. The leader stood at the front of the formation, his crystalline body reflecting the filtered sunlight. Defensive positions. Standard drone assault protocol. The cadets scattered into practiced formations, dropped behind a fallen tree trunk, his rifle ready. This was supposed to be simple. Automated training drones would attack. They would defend. Everyone would pass. The drones came screaming through the canopy right on schedule. Silver spheres the size of basketballs, each equipped with stun weapons and tactical programming. They weren't meant to kill, just to test. Fired in controlled bursts. Around him, the other cadets did the same. Energy weapons lit up the jungle. Drones exploded or fell smoking from the sky. It was going exactly as planned. Then the ground started shaking. "What is that?" someone shouted. The trees to their left exploded outward. Something massive crashed through the jungle, and training kicked in before his brain could process what he was seeing. He rolled sideways as a huge, scaled body slammed into the ground where he had been crouching. The creature was 15 feet long, covered in armored plates that looked like they could stop a tank shell. Its head was all teeth and rage. A ravager. The briefings had mentioned them. Stay away from their nesting sites. Avoid confrontation. They were supposed to be territorial but not aggressive unless provoked. Someone must have provoked them. 3 more ravagers burst from the jungle. The training drones forgotten. The cadets scattered. Was shouting orders, but they were lost in the chaos. Energy weapons that had easily destroyed drones bounced harmlessly off the ravager's scales. "Fall back," yelled. She grabbed his arm. "Move." They ran. Behind them, the sounds of combat mixed with the horrible screeching of the ravagers. One of the cadets screamed. The sound cut off suddenly and crashed through the undergrowth. The extraction point was 2 miles north. If they could just reach it, the shuttles would get them out. The ravager came from above. It had been waiting in the trees, patient like all ambush predators. It dropped onto, bearing her to the ground. She managed to roll, avoiding the snapping jaws, but the creature's tail whipped around like a club. Didn't think, he just moved. He slammed into, pushing her aside. The tail meant for her head hit him instead. The impact shattered his left leg. He felt the bones snap like dry wood. Then he was flying through the air, slamming into a tree trunk. More breaks. Ribs this time. Something inside him tore and he tasted blood. The world went sideways. He was on the ground, couldn't breathe properly, was screaming his name, firing at the ravager. Other cadets appeared. The creature retreated into the jungle, deciding easier prey awaited elsewhere. Hands grabbed him, lifted him. Pain exploded through his body and he might have screamed. Hard to tell. "We need to move him." That was her face appearing above him. "Help me carry him." Negative, his voice cold and precise. "He's too damaged. We cannot make extraction speed with this burden." Burden's voice rose. "He's a cadet. He's one of us." "Check his vitals." That was one of the cadets. Felt scanning equipment pass over his body. Internal bleeding, organ damage, multiple fractures. Even if we get him to medical, survival chance is minimal. "So we just leave him," was crying now. Tried to tell her it was okay, but his mouth wouldn't work right. The telepath drifted closer. I sense his life force fatting. The speaks truth. This one will not survive the journey. His face appeared in fatting vision. The commander's crystalline features showed no emotion. The weak perish, Cadet Lee. This is the way of the coalition. The strong survive. We complete the mission. This is murder, shouted. This is war, replied. In war, difficult choices must be made. We leave supplies. We mark his position. If time permits after extraction, we send recovery for the body. They were arguing above him but could barely hear now. The pain was fatting, which he knew was a bad sign. They set him down against a tree. Someone pressed supplies into his hands. A broken communicator. A charge pack for his sidearm. A medical kit that wouldn't be nearly enough. Knelt beside him, gripping his hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." He managed to squeeze her hand, tried to smile, failed. Then they were moving away. He heard the sounds of the group departing, crashing through the jungle toward salvation, toward the extraction point he would never reach. The sounds faded. The jungle fell quiet except for the distant calls of creatures that now saw him as prey. Lay against the tree, broken and bleeding, and watched the sky through the canopy above. The twin suns of 7 were setting, painting everything in shades of orange and red. Somewhere overhead he heard the thunder of shuttle engines. They were leaving, all of them, even who had tried to save him. He was alone. The darkness at the edges of his vision was spreading. This was it then. This was how it ended. Not in glorious battle, not defending Earth, but abandoned in an alien jungle on a planet whose name most people couldn't even pronounce. His hand found the sidearm at his side. One charge pack. He could make it quick when the Ravagers came back, better than being eaten alive. But his fingers wouldn't grip the weapon, too weak, too broken. The darkness swallowed him whole and knew nothing more. When he woke, it was night and something was screaming in the jungle, something that sounded hungry and close. That was when he made his choice. He could lie here and die, or he could fight. Had always been too stubborn to quit. With shaking hands, he reached for the medical kit. 3 months after they left him to die, the Coalition sent a recovery team to 7. Captain Park stood in the clearing where Cadet had last been seen. The location marker was still active, blinking on her scanner, but there was nothing else. Just torn fabric from a Coalition uniform, scattered supply containers that had been picked clean, and claw marks on the trees. "Lot of blood here," one of her team members said, running a scanner over the ground. "Trail leads west, but it's old, 3 months old." Nodded slowly. She had read the reports. Internal injuries, broken bones, minimal supplies. No one could survive 3 months in this jungle even if they were healthy. A critically wounded human. Impossible. "Mark him as KIA," she said quietly. "Let's head back." The report was filed. His name was added to the memorial wall at Coalition Command. His family on Earth received notification. Lee, who had resigned from the Coalition the day after the incident, attended a small ceremony in his honor. Commander read the report and filed it away. Another casualty. War was full of them. Case closed. 6 months after the abandonment, strange reports began filtering in from the shipping lanes near 7. A cargo vessel reported seeing sophisticated traps in the jungle canopy. Hunters' traps, designed to catch and hold Ravagers. The traps used parts from Coalition training drones, modified and repurposed in ways that showed unusual creativity. A survey team documented what looked like a permanent camp built high in the trees. Solar collectors, water filtration systems, and a shelter that blended perfectly with the jungle environment. Someone had been living there for months. A research drone, sent to investigate the indigenous wildlife, captured something impossible. The footage showed a human male moving through the jungle with the confidence of an apex predator. He wore armor made from Ravager scales, carried weapons that looked like they had been built from scavenged technology, and moved with a pronounced limp. But the limp didn't slow him down. If anything, he seemed to have adapted his movement style to compensate. 3 juvenile Ravagers followed him like trained dogs. The drone's facial recognition software ran the image through Coalition databases. The match came back immediately. Status: killed in action. Except he wasn't dead. Coalition Command sent Captain Park back to 7, this time with a full retrieval team and medical personnel. Their orders were simple: find Cadet and bring him home. They spent 2 weeks searching for him. Made sure they never found him, unless he wanted to be found. The retrieval team would set up camp, and in the morning they would find their perimeter sensors rearranged. Not broken, just moved. A message: I see you. They would follow tracks that led them in circles through the jungle. Sometimes they would find caches of supplies, fresh water, or edible plants arranged in obvious patterns. He was taking care of them even as he evaded them. "He's playing with us," one of the soldiers muttered. Didn't disagree. She had Red's file. Before the Coalition, he had been a wilderness survival instructor on Earth. He knew how to live off the land. And now he had 6 months of experience in one of the most hostile environments in known space. On the 15th day, scanner pinged. A location marker freshly activated. Coordinates to a clearing 3 miles north. "It's an invitation," her second-in-command said. "Then we accept," replied. They found him waiting in a clearing beside a small stream, sat on a fallen log, calmly cleaning some kind of bladed weapon. 3 Ravagers lounged nearby, watching the newcomers with intelligent eyes. He looked different, leaner, harder. His face carried scars that hadn't been there in his academy photo. His left leg showed signs of having been broken and poorly set, but he moved with practiced efficiency regardless. The armor he wore looked professional despite being made from organic materials. "Cadet said carefully, "We've been looking for you." Glanced up. His eyes were different too, sharper, colder. "I noticed you're not very good at jungle tracking." One of the soldiers bristled at the comment but held up a hand for silence. She approached slowly, hands visible and empty. "We thought you were dead." "I was supposed to be," replied. He went back to cleaning his weapon. "That was the plan, wasn't it? Leave the wounded human, mark the position for body recovery, if time permits." Winced. She had read Commander's report. "That was wrong. What happened to you was wrong." "Lots of wrong things happen in war," tested the edge of his blade with his thumb. "I got over it." "How?" Gestured at the jungle around them. "How did you survive? Your injuries alone should have killed you." Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was matter of fact. "First week was bad, couldn't move much, drank rainwater, ate whatever insects crawled close enough. The Ravagers came sniffing around, but they're curious creatures, not just mindless killers." He nodded at the 3 lounging nearby. "I shared my food with one of the juveniles, just scraps really, but it came back, brought its siblings. I started learning their behavior patterns, how they hunt, how they communicate, what they fear." "You domesticated them," one of the soldiers said in disbelief. "No," corrected. "I earned their respect. There's a difference. In the jungle, everything earns its place. The strong survive by being smart, not just by being strong." Pulled out a medical scanner. "We need to check your injuries, that leg." "Healed wrong, I know." Stood up, demonstrating his movement. "Said it myself using salvaged materials from the training drones. Hurts sometimes, but it works. I adapted." "We can fix it. Coalition medical technology can repair." "No," the word was flat, final. Paused. "You don't want treatment." "I don't want anything from the Coalition." Looked directly at her. "You people left me here to die. I survived anyway. This jungle, these creatures, they're more honest than any of you. When a Ravager wants to kill you, at least it's honest about it." I understand you're angry. I'm not angry. His voice was calm. Anger would mean I still care. I've moved past that. This is my home now. These creatures are my family. Why would I leave? The retrieval team exchanged glances. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Rescued personnel were supposed to be grateful, relieved, eager to return to civilization. Tried a different approach. What about your family on Earth? They think you're dead. Don't they deserve to know you're alive? For the first time, his expression softened slightly. Tell them, I don't mind. But also tell them I'm happy. Tell them I found a place where strength isn't measured by how fast you can run or how much you can lift. It's measured by how well you adapt. The coalition wants to reinstate you, said. Full honors, medical discharge if you prefer, compensation for what happened, whatever you want. Actually smiled at that. What I want is for everyone to leave me alone. They negotiated for another hour. Refused reinstatement, refused medical treatment, refused compensation. But he did accept one thing, a long-range communicator with direct access to coalition supply networks. In case you need anything, explained. In case you need anything, corrected. This jungle is full of resources. Medical plants, mineral deposits, fresh water. If your people need it, I can trade. Fair exchange. As the retrieval team prepared to leave, had one last question. How did you do it? Really? How did you survive when everyone said it was impossible? Looked at her with those sharp, jungle-hardened eyes. I made a choice. Adapt or die. Everyone faces that choice eventually. Most people just don't realize it. And you chose to adapt. I chose to live. Turned to head back into the jungle, his Ravager companions falling in beside him. There's a difference. Watched him disappear into the green shadows. Her report to Coalition Command would be brief. Cadet located, alive and healthy. Refused retrieval. Status changed from KIA to voluntarily separated. But what she would remember, what would stay with her for years, was the look in his eyes. Not broken, not defeated, just transformed into something new, something that didn't fit in the boxes the Coalition used to categorize its personnel. Something wild and free and utterly human. 2 years after they left him in the jungle, Commander faced an enemy that could not be defeated. The Empire had been quiet for decades, building their forces in secret. When they finally struck, they hit hard and fast. Entire coalition colonies went dark in days. Fleets were scattered. Border territories burned. But the worst weapon in the arsenal wasn't their ships or their soldiers. It was the siege beasts. Outpost Meridian's defensive sensors picked up the creature 3 hours before it arrived. At first, the tactical officers thought the readings were wrong. Nothing biological could be that large. They were wrong. The siege beast stood 50 feet tall at the shoulder. Its body was covered in overlapping plates of natural armor that looked like black metal. 6 legs, each as thick as a transport ship, carried its massive weight with horrible efficiency. Its head was a nightmare of teeth and glowing eyes. All weapons fire at will, Commander ordered from the command center. The outpost's defensive batteries opened up. Energy cannons that could crack starship hulls hammered the siege beast from a dozen angles. Missiles streaked through the air. The ground shook with explosions. When the smoke cleared, the creature was still coming. The armor showed some scorch marks, nothing more. Concentrated fire on the head, Lieutenant shouted. The officer had grown harder since his academy days, but his tactical mind was still sharp. The weapons refocused. Direct hits to the head, the eyes, the mouth. The siege beast roared, more angry than hurt, and kept advancing. It hit the outer defensive wall like a battering ram. The wall, designed to withstand artillery strikes, crumpled like paper. Soldiers scattered as the creature stomped through, each footfall crushing bunkers and equipment. In the command center, watched his defensive lines collapse. He had been in combat for 15 years. He had faced enemy fleets, ground armies, orbital bombardments. He had always found a way to win. This time he had nothing. Casualties? He asked quietly. 17 dead, 43 wounded, reported. The telepath's mental voice was strained. The creature is targeting our heavy weapons emplacements. It knows what threatens it. Fall back to secondary positions, ordered. Prepare to evacuate non-essential personnel. Sir, if we evacuate, then we'll take this position. That was Lee, who had rejoined the coalition a year after had been found alive. She served now as a tactical advisor, though everyone knew she only stayed to honor the memory of what the coalition should have been. Meridian controls access to 3 colony systems. We can't lose it. We can't hold it either, replied. He hated admitting defeat, but the truth was undeniable. They had been fighting for 72 hours. The siege beast had torn through every defensive line. Standard weapons were useless. His soldiers were exhausted. The creature roared again, closer now. Through the command center windows, they could see it destroying another defensive tower. Coalition Command is offering orbital bombardment, said, reading an incoming message. They can sterilize the area, destroy the creature and everything within 5 miles. Including us, said flatly. Including us, agreed. We have 6 hours to evacuate. After that, the bombardment begins whether we're clear or not. The command center fell silent. 6 hours to evacuate an outpost designed for 5,000 personnel, with the siege beast actively hunting them, with wounded who couldn't be moved quickly. The math was brutal and simple. Most of them would die. Tactical Officer Jin had been quiet throughout the battle, monitoring data streams and running analysis. Now he spoke up, his voice hesitant. Commander, there might be another option. Turn to him, speak. Jin brought up a file on the central display. 2 years ago, there was an incident on 7. A cadet survived alone in a hostile jungle environment for 6 months. The creatures there, Ravagers, share genetic markers with this siege beast. Similar armor structure, similar behavioral patterns. They must have based their bioweapon on Ravager DNA. I know this story, said quietly, too quietly. The human who survived learned how to fight those creatures, Jin continued. Not with heavy weapons or standard tactics. He learned their weaknesses, their behavior. He tamed them. His mandibles clicked in what might have been disbelief. You're suggesting we ask a civilian for military assistance. I'm suggesting we ask the only person in the galaxy who knows how to kill something like this. Jin looked directly at. We ask for help. The name hung in the air like an accusation. Lee stepped forward. He won't do it, not for the coalition, not for the people who left him to die. We're out of options, Jin said. In 6 hours, this outpost and everyone in it becomes dust. What do we have to lose? Stood still, his crystalline form reflecting the lights of the failing defensive systems. He thought about that day 2 years ago when he had made the logical choice, the tactical choice, the cold mathematics of war that said an injured soldier was a liability, not an asset. He had been so certain he was right. Send the message, he said finally. Route it through my command codes. If anyone is going to beg for help, it should be me. Shook her head. He won't answer you, but he might answer me. She moved to the communication station and opened a channel to 7. The long-range communicator had accepted 2 years ago pinged active. Her voice was steady despite the explosions outside. I know you have no reason to help us. I know what we did to you was unforgivable, but there are 5,000 people here about to die, not soldiers, civilians, families, children. She paused, gathering her thoughts. There's a creature here, bioweapon. It's like the Ravagers from 7 but bigger, stronger. We can't stop it. We've tried everything. In 6 hours, Coalition Command is going to bomb this entire area to destroy it, and most of us won't make it out in time. Another pause. The siege beast roared in the distance. I'm not asking you to forgive us, said quietly. I'm not even asking you to do this for the coalition, but those children didn't leave you in the jungle. Those civilians didn't abandon you. If there's any part of you that still cares about saving innocent lives, we need you now. She closed the channel. Everyone in the command center waited. 1 hour passed, no response. 2 hours. The siege beast destroyed another defensive section, casualties mounted. 3 hours. Evacuation transports began loading the most critically wounded. There wasn't enough space for everyone. 4 hours. Was preparing to order a final stand when the communicator chirped. A simple text message appeared on screen. Send coordinates. I'm bringing friends. Let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. Jin smiled for the first time in days. Even's rigid posture relaxed slightly. Read the message 3 times, as if expecting it to change. Then he sent the coordinates and clearance codes for a coalition rapid transport. How long until he arrives? Asked. 3 hours, replied. Maybe less if he pushes the transport. That's cutting it close, said. The bombardment begins in 2 hours. Then we buy him time, said. He activated the outpost-wide comm. All units, this is Commander, we have reinforcements incoming. I need every able soldier to delay that creature for 2 more hours. Do not engage directly. Harass it, slow it, make it chase you. Stay alive and stay mobile. Help is coming. What kind of reinforcements? Someone asked over the channel. Looked at who nodded. The kind that knows how to fight monsters, he replied. As the soldiers moved to execute the new orders, stood by the window, watching the siege beast tear through the outpost's infrastructure. She thought about, alone in his jungle, living a life of peaceful isolation. He had every reason to say no, every reason to let them face the consequences of their own choices. But he had said yes anyway, not because he forgave them, not because he had any loyalty to the coalition, but because innocent people needed help, and he was still, despite everything, human enough to care. The coalition transport touched down on Outpost Meridian's landing pad with 90 minutes until orbital bombardment. The rear hatch opened and stepped out into a war zone. He looked the same as the last reports described him. Face, mismatched armor made from Ravager scales, weapons that were part salvage and part jungle craft. His limp was still there, but he moved with confidence. Behind him came 3 fully grown Ravagers, each wearing a specialized harness loaded with equipment. The soldiers stared. Some had heard the stories. Most thought they were exaggerations. Seeing it in person was different. Met him at the bottom of the ramp. For a moment, they just looked at each other. 2 years of unspoken words hung between them. Thank you for coming, she said finally. Nodded once, where is it? Eastern sector, tearing through our heavy weapons positions. Gestured toward the sounds of destruction. Nothing we have can stop it. I need to see it first. Up close. Turned to his Ravagers and made a series of clicks and hand gestures. The creatures spread out, sniffing the air, orienting themselves to the new environment. Commander approached, flanked by N. The reunion was awkward. These were the people who had left to die. Now they needed him to save them. Spoke first, his voice formal. Cadet. Just, he interrupted. I'm not a cadet anymore. Then, gestured at the tactical display one of his officers carried. The creature has been attacking for 3 days. Our analysis suggests. Your analysis is wrong. Studied the display for maybe 10 seconds, then pushed it away. You're thinking of it like a weapon. It's not. It's an animal, a predator, and predators have patterns. He pointed at the map. It's not targeting your heavy weapons randomly. It's eliminating threats in order of perceived danger. First your artillery, then your energy weapons, now your defensive positions. It's smart. Learned behavior from the Ravager's genetic base. Can you kill it? Asked bluntly. Maybe. Pulled out a small device from his pack, something that looked homemade. But I need to get close enough to analyze its biology, see how the modified the base Ravager DNA. That's suicide, said, her telepathic voice echoing in their minds. The creature kills anything that approaches. Smiled slightly. Good thing I know how to speak Ravager. He led them through the damaged outpost, following the path of destruction. His 3 Ravagers moved ahead, scouting, read their body language like others read text, understanding their warnings and observations. They found the siege beast in what had been the central plaza. It was resting, processing a meal it had pulled from a destroyed supply depot. Up close, it was even more massive than the reports suggested. 50 feet of armored muscle and raw aggression. "Everyone stay back," whispered. He made a complex series of gestures to his Ravagers. They settled into waiting positions, alert but non-threatening. Then did something insane. He walked toward the siege beast. "What is he doing?" hissed. "Grab this arm, trust him." Moved slowly, keeping his body language submissive. Not prey, but not a threat either. He made low clicking sounds in his throat, similar to Ravager communication but different, modified. The siege beast's massive head swung toward him, eyes focusing on this small creature that dared approach. Stopped 30 feet away, close enough to be killed in seconds. He continued the clicking sounds, mixing them with low-frequency hums. The scanner in his hand worked silently, gathering data. The siege beast watched him, its body tensed, ready to strike. Then, incredibly, it made a sound back, a deep rumble that shook the ground. Responded with different clicks. The exchange continued for almost a minute. Finally, the siege beast snorted and returned to its meal, dismissing the small human as non-threatening. Backed away slowly, maintaining the submissive posture until he was safely back with the group. "How?" asked stunned. "How are you alive?" "I told it I wasn't food and I wasn't a threat." Checked his scanner. "Got what I needed. The modified the Ravager base DNA extensively, but they kept the core behavioral patterns. That's their mistake." He gathered the command staff in a nearby shelter. Tactical Officer Jin and Engineering Lead Minyu joined them, along with O, who specialized in xenobiology. Spread out his scanner data. "This creature has the same weaknesses as regular Ravagers, just scaled up. Its armor is almost impenetrable, but there are compounds that can weaken it chemically. Specifically, a modified version of their own venom. We've tried chemical weapons," said. "Nothing worked." "Because you were trying human chemistry." Pulled out samples from his pack. Small vials filled with viscous liquid. "This is concentrated Ravager venom, modified with compounds from jungle plants on 7. It breaks down the proteins in their armor." Minyu examined the vials carefully. "We can synthesize this." "If you have the base materials, yes. I brought samples." Pointed at the harnesses on his Ravagers. "But chemistry alone won't work. The creature is too big, too aggressive. We need to control where it goes when it strikes." "Pheromone manipulation," realized. "Like you did with the regular Ravagers." Nodded. "The creature responds to pheromones just like its genetic ancestors. We can use that to lure it exactly where we want it." He outlined a plan that sounded impossible. Turn the entire outpost into a trap. Use modified pheromones to control the siege beast's movement. Apply the venom compound to weaken specific sections of its armor. Then coordinate a final strike when the creature was vulnerable. "You have 18 hours, said, checking the countdown to bombardment. "Can it be done?" Looked at the assembled team. Jin with his tactical mind. Minyu with his engineering expertise, with her scientific knowledge. These were capable people, even if they wore coalition uniforms. "I only need 12, he said. They worked through the night. Directed teams with the confidence of someone who had spent 2 years mastering survival against impossible odds. He showed them how to extract and concentrate pheromone glands, how to mix the venom compound for maximum effectiveness, how to set up dispersal systems using equipment salvaged from damaged defensive positions. Minu's engineering teams built specialized sprayers. Science division synthesized gallons of the venom compound. Jin planned the tactical coordination, working directly with to predict the siege beast's responses. Coordinated the soldiers, making sure everyone knew their role. This wasn't a traditional battle. It was a hunt, and they were setting up the ultimate trap. Watched it all from the command center. He saw the way commanded respect without demanding it, the way he taught rather than ordered, the way he integrated coalition resources with his own knowledge to create something neither could have accomplished alone. He should have been an officer, commented, sensing's thoughts. He would have been, replied quietly, if we hadn't left him to die. 6 hours before bombardment, the trap was ready. Pheromone dispersal units positioned throughout the outpost. Venom compound loaded into sprayers. Defensive positions reinforced for the final stand. Every soldier knew their role. Stood in the center of the planned trap zone, checking final preparations. His Ravagers waited nearby, calm but alert. They trusted him completely. Approached carrying a fresh charge pack for his weapons. Whatever happens, I want you to know. Save it, said, not unkindly. We're not here to talk about the past. We're here to save people. That's all that matters right now. After this is over, I go back to my jungle. You go back to your war. Some things don't change. She handed him the charge pack silently. As she turned to leave, spoke again. But thank you for the message, for giving me the choice. Smiled slightly. You always had the choice. I just reminded you that you still cared. The siege beast roared in the distance, sensing the dawn. Checked his weapons one last time. Showtime, he said. Let's teach the why you don't mess with Earth biology. The siege beast attacked at dawn, right on schedule. Had predicted it would. Predators were creatures of habit, and this one had learned that dawn attacks caught defenders at their weakest. It came from the east, where the rising sun would blind the weapon's operators. But this time, the defenders were ready. Phase 1 spoke calmly into the command channel. Activate dispersal units Alpha through Gamma. Throughout the eastern sector, hidden units began releasing modified pheromones into the air. The scent was invisible to humans but overwhelming to anything with Ravager genetics. It smelled like wounded prey, like territory challenge, like everything the siege beast's instincts told it to investigate. The massive creature paused mid-charge, its head swinging toward the strongest concentration of pheromones. Exactly as planned, it changed direction, moving into the corridor they had prepared. It's working, Jin reported from Tactical. Target is following the planned route. Good, watch from his position in the central plaza, the kill zone. Activate dispersal units Delta through Epsilon. Keep it moving. The siege beast followed the pheromone trail like a bloodhound. It crashed through abandoned sections of the outpost, past defensive positions that had been deliberately left unmanned. The creature thought it was hunting. It didn't realize it was being herded. Phase 2 ordered. Engineering teams activate the sprayers. As the siege beast passed through predetermined checkpoints, hidden sprayers activated. They misted the creature with some modified venom compound, targeting specific sections of its armor. The creature barely noticed at first. The spray was fine, almost invisible, and it had been sprayed with coalition chemicals before with no effect. But this was different. This wasn't human chemistry trying to brute force through alien biology. This was the siege beast's own biology turned against it. The venom compound soaked into the creature's armor, breaking down the proteins that made it nearly invulnerable. Not everywhere, just specific sections. The shoulders, the joints, the base of the neck, places where armor met flesh. Compound absorption at 70%, reported from her science station. Armor degradation beginning. The siege beast roared, finally sensing something was wrong. It tried to turn back but activated another set of pheromone units behind it. The scent now told the creature that enemies were at its back, that it needed to push forward to safety. The creature charged toward the central plaza, toward the kill zone. Phase 3 said, "All units prepare for engagement." Around the plaza, coalition soldiers emerged from concealed positions. They didn't fire randomly. Every weapon was aimed at the specific sections of armor that the venom compound had weakened. Coordinated fire, precise targeting. Energy weapons that had bounced harmlessly off the creature's hide now punched through the degraded armor. The siege beast screamed in pain and rage. It had never been hurt before, not really. Now it bled. "Maintain fire," ordered. The commander had joined the front lines, leading by example. "Target the marked sections only." The siege beast spun, trying to find an escape route. But everywhere it turned, there were more soldiers, more weapons, all targeting its weakened points. And still the pheromones filled the air, confusing its senses, making it impossible to think clearly. Then 3 Ravagers attacked. The creatures moved with perfect coordination, targeting the siege beast's legs. They were tiny compared to their massive cousin, but they were fast and they knew exactly where to strike. They bit at the joints, the tendons, the spots where the armor was thinnest. The siege beast tried to fight back, but it was used to dealing with single opponents or scattered resistance. This was pack tactics, the same techniques the original Ravagers had used to hunt on 7 for thousands of years. The creature stumbled, its front right leg buckling. "Phase 4 said quietly, "Everyone fall back, clear the plaza." The soldiers retreated to the perimeter. The Ravagers disengaged, racing to safety. In seconds, the central plaza was empty except for the wounded, confused siege beast. And standing alone in the center. The creature saw him, recognized him as the small thing that had approached it before, that had made non-threatening sounds. But now that small thing was standing in its territory, challenging it. The siege beast charged. Didn't move. He just watched the massive creature bearing down on him, 50 tons of rage and hurt pride. Behind him, coalition soldiers shouted for him to run, was screaming into the comm for him to get clear. Raised his hand to the detonator he held. "Adapt or die," he said softly. He pressed the button. The entire plaza erupted. Had spent 12 hours rigging every inch of it with explosives and concentrated venom reservoirs. Not enough to kill the creature outright, but enough to do something worse. The explosions drove the concentrated venom deep into the siege beast's body through every wound, every crack in its weakened armor. The creature's own biology became poison. Its blood began breaking down the tissue from inside. The siege beast crashed to the ground 10 feet from where stood. It tried to rise, failed, tried again. Its legs wouldn't support its weight anymore. The venom was spreading, shutting down its systems one by one. Walked up to the creature's massive head. Its eyes, still filled with rage and confusion, focused on him. He made the clicking sounds again, the same ones he had used before. But this time, the message was different. This time, he was saying goodbye. The siege beast's eyes dimmed. Its breathing slowed, then stopped. For a moment, the outpost was silent except for the crackling of fires and the sounds of damaged equipment. Then someone started cheering. One voice became dozens, then hundreds. The soldiers who had been sure they were going to die now celebrated survival. Walked away from the fallen creature, his limp more pronounced than usual. His Ravagers met him halfway, checking him for injuries. He was covered in dirt and chemical residue, but unhurt. Reached him first, grabbing him in a tight hug before remembering he might not want that, but didn't pull away. He just stood there, accepting the gesture. "You could have been killed," she said. "I've died before," replied. "I got better." Approached, his crystalline form reflecting the early morning light. The commander stopped a respectful distance away, as if unsure he had the right to come closer. "You saved us," said simply. "I saved them," gestured at the celebrating soldiers, the civilians emerging from shelters, the children who would grow up because of what happened today. Not the coalition, not the military, just people who deserve to live. Was silent for a long moment. Then he did something few had ever seen a do. He bowed, a gesture of profound respect in his culture. "I was wrong," he said, "about weakness, about humans, about you. I judged strength by the wrong measures. The weak perish, I said, but you proved that wrong. The weak who refuse to quit, who adapt instead of breaking, who fight with intelligence instead of just force, they don't perish, they thrive." Looked at the commander who had left him to die. Part of him wanted to throw the apology back, to make feel the full weight of his mistake, but that would accomplish nothing. "You were wrong about a lot of things," said, "but you called when it mattered. That counts for something." Coalition Command sent immediate messages. They wanted to decorate, promote him, parade him as a hero. They offered medals, rank, a position training special forces. They offered compensation that could buy a small moon. Declined everything, again. But he did accept one thing: upgraded communications equipment and a formal trade agreement. 7 had resources the coalition needed: medical plants, unique compounds, biological samples. In exchange, would receive supplies and equipment as needed. "You're really going back?" asked as they stood by his transport. "It's my home," said. "The jungle doesn't judge, doesn't leave anyone behind. Every creature there earns its place honestly." "Will I see you again?" Actually smiled. "If you bring real coffee, not that synthetic garbage the coalition serves." As his transport prepared for departure, Lieutenant approached. The young officer had fought beside during the battle, coordinating the venom sprayers. "Sir," he said, then corrected himself. "Coalition Command wants to implement your tactics as standard training. They're calling it protocol." "Let them," said. "If it saves lives, use it." "Will you help train people?" Considered. "Send small groups to 7, no more than 5 at a time. They can learn jungle survival, xenobiology, adaptive tactics, but they follow my rules in my territory." Agreed, hesitated. "Can I ask you something? How did you do it? How did you survive when everyone said it was impossible?" Looked at the young officer, seeing the genuine curiosity there. "I made a choice every single day. Wake up and fight, or lie down and die. Some days the choice was harder than others. Some days I wasn't sure I made the right one, but I kept choosing to fight." He climbed into the transport, his ravagers following. Before the hatch closed, he looked back at the assembled coalition personnel. "Remember this," he said. "Humans aren't the strongest race. We're not the fastest or the most powerful, but we don't quit. We adapt. We survive. And when you push us to the edge, when you leave us with nothing but the choice between dying and transforming into something new, we transform. Every single time." The transport lifted off, carrying back to his jungle kingdom. In the months that followed, Coalition Special Forces began training on 7 in small groups. They learned from a human who had turned abandonment into mastery, who had transformed a death sentence into a new life. And on every coalition outpost along the contested borders, a new standing order was issued: never leave a human behind. They remember. And when you need them most, you want them to remember you as allies, not enemies. Because humans, as one abandoned cadet had proven, were at their most dangerous not when they were angry, but when they were determined to survive.